Oroville City Council meeting, special meeting to order for January 7th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Riggs.
Here.
Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Councilmember Johnstone.
Here.
Councilmember Goodson.
Yes.
Councilmember Weber.
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith.
Here.
Mayor Pittman.
Here.
Thank you.
And we'll move into closed session. We'll go in now at 5 o'clock and hopefully be back out by 6. All right.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, I started to get.
We're all here, ready? Close for a session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No reportable action from closed session. Direction was given to staff.
Thank you. We're now to the open session of the meeting. Just a quick safety note to let you all know that welcome you to the City Council chambers. We do have an exit over here, and then, of course, the exit you came into, and if you need to use the restroom, just go through those doors and it's down the hallway. And if we need to leave the building, we'll ask you all to assemble out in the parking lot for reasons like an earthquake or something like that. And I'm going to leave the responsibility to clear the building with Mr. Ring tonight. Thank you all. Appreciate that time. Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Riggs? Councilwoman Riggs. Would you lead us?
Please stand. Salute. Pledge.
Thank you, Councilwoman Riggs.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, the next item is the adoption of agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Why are they absent? Motion passes unanimously.
Next item is presentations and proclamations, none scheduled this evening. Public communication, hearing of non-agenda items. This is a time for you that may have to wish to make a presentation under the 3-minute rule. Do we have any cards tonight?
Yes, we do, sir. We'll begin with Kenley Palmer and follow that with the cameraman.
Welcome, Kenley. There you go.
Okay, is it working? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Kenley, and today I would like to address the city of Oroville about the nuisance we have been experiencing at our home. My grandmother's home has been a sanctuary for many children, adults, and over close to 60 shelter care infants. She has worked hard and loves to serve her community. Her home was built by her family, and for 20 years her property has been a safe haven for many. Recently, night after night, we have been plagued by pit bulls from a nearby homeless encampment. We have been told that this encampment is the model for the city of Oroville to receive funding for the pallet shelters. Last night, my 9-year-old cousin and I ran terrified into our home after feeding our livestock, as 4 more pit bulls were coming onto our property, snarling and growling at us. My cousin was crying and said she thought that she was going to be killed and that she was going to have to watch her mom from heaven until they saw each other again, a feeling no 9-year-old girl should have to experience. There are multiple encounters with these dogs. 20 dogs total, just the ones I have been able to count, all within a quarter mile. The city has a limit to how many dogs someone can own, a total of 3. Every other person, if made aware of, would be held to that and fined, but these days the homeless have more rights than my grandmother and I, who was and is hardworking and tax-paying citizens. We are being traumatized by the packs running freely at night, are losing money and have lost food from our animals being slaughtered, and them destroying electric, livestock, and field fencing. We are having needles and trash thrown onto our property that we have to handle and clean, hearing yelling and screaming along with chainsaws as they cut down trees, and watching as illegal fires burn at all hours of the night, causing a fire hazard. The pallet shelters are taking too long, and there is no guarantee these people will leave and their dogs will go with them. The owner of the land has told us to just sue him. More money being taken away from our home for attorney fees and still dealing with a problem that was forced on us. We are the ones who have to live with this problem every single day. If we do something about the dogs, who is to say the transients won't come after us and retaliate and harm us or our property further? We don't know who more to contact. We've contacted the police and SPCA who are trying to help us. But at the end of the day, we need something more to be done, especially with this homeowner who is, or this landowner who is allowing these people to stay there and us having to deal with the trash and, picking up needles. We shouldn't have to be doing that. My 9-year-old little cousin shouldn't have to be worried to play in our yard. And I carry my 4-month-old son with me to feed our lambs and everything. And who's to say that we won't be attacked one night? That's what I
Kenley,
had to
thank
say.
you. Would you leave your contact information with the city administrator? We appreciate that. We're sorry to hear your troubles.
Thank you. Up next, we have the cameraman, followed by Lisa Torres.
So Kayla. I feel
Welcome,
your,
Mr. Cameraman.
I
Good
feel
evening.
your pain. Please.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Oroville City Council. Happy New Year to you all. Just first say, I believe we're going to have one swap out, but, I watched The Sound of Music over the Christmas vacation. So as they say, so long, farewell, goodbye. I'm not going to be here later. I would like to be here for the swearing in, but, the public transportation in our county gets a little harder the later it gets into the night. So there's that. But I was going to talk about, speaking of public transportation, bus stops there on County Center Drive. I understand my problem's more sort of the county. Evidently, has been clarified. Tried to reach out to City Hall, didn't get a call back in time. But basically, I do understand that there is a jurisdiction of Public Works between Nelson and Table Mountain, that stretch, basically all the entire road of County Center Drive. Depending on what the city can do, because that is the county buildings, as much as they like to pick and choose what they want to deal with, because it is within the city of Oroville. What we can do, just getting more lighting out there in general. It is kind of one of the few areas of our city that is kind of operative all hours of the night and day. It's a jail over there. People are released. Not necessarily directly in the bus stops. That's more of the county's issue. But if we can get some sort of lighting around them, light it up the area and make people feel safe. And just for the riders now, especially now with the daylight savings time, it's hard to, sometimes, get the driver's attention unless you run out there and say, hey, or happen to wear something high vis like I am this evening. Most drivers actually say, hey, I can see you with that on, because, it's lighting in our county in certain parts is hard to none. Briefly, I want to mention I was at the press conference from the Bidwell arson yesterday. Evidently, there's more information, that's going to come out in court and what was able to be released. Still concerned from the buildings we have in our city, seeing how easily this man was able to run up there and basically firebomb the Bidwell mansion. We have other historical, buildings in our town, and potentially considering that this man's motives might have been by colonialism, anti-colonialism. I think that's something we should look into, and maintaining fire safety, since supposedly during this incident the fire alarm was not working as it should have been. So definitely, for our historic buildings here. Just briefly, with the few seconds I have, if you all saw the national news recently, there was a fire truck in Delray Beach, Florida, that went past the barriers on whether you're a fire truck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Up next, we have Lisa Torres, followed by Bill Spear.
Evening, Mayor Pittman, Vice Mayor Smith, and council members. I guess my comment is for Chrissy Riggs. So I just want to thank you for your years that you've served on the board, on the city council. I know hasn't been easy. Can't please everybody. So I just want to say, good luck and thank you for all your hard work. It hasn't gone unnoticed. Things may be discussed in the shadows, but just know that you are valued in our community. And I just want to thank you for all that you've done. And you will be missed. We have a new council coming on. So I guess as a community member, our prayer is that we just continue in unity and that we work together. We don't wear our emotions on our sleeves, and that we just know that the decisions that we make and every thought process that goes through is for the community and not for our own selves, because that is what everyone is appointed for, is to represent your community and to represent your district of where you live. So thank you so much for running. You beat me. That's okay. But you did a good job. And I landed on the school board, which I love at the moment. So, no hard feelings there. But thank you so much, and I appreciate you. And I just want to let you know that. I don't want you to leave tonight and not knowing how valued you have been on the city council. Wow. And for the new city council, I just want to sit there and say, you guys do a great job. The unity and the communication, it just needs to continue on. And so, like I said, just continue to do the work because the community is watching and the community does notice when the great works are done, but they also notice faults as well. Mm-hmm. So, but we just know that, hey, we have to be real. We can't please everybody, but we know that the work that we do is for the community, for the safety, and not only for the safety, but for the unity that we need to serve to make our community stronger. Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Up next, we have Bill Spear.
Welcome, Bill.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. I have a few verses to share. Before I do, I'd like to thank you also. You have done a great job and all you contributed to the ODBA. You've been a blessing to our city. Thank you. The verses in Philippians 3, starting on 12, not that I have already attained or am already perfected, but I press on that I may lay hold of for that which Christ Jesus has also laid hold of me. Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching forward to the things ahead, I press towards the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. As we move forward into this new year, I'm real excited for our new council and the things that God has for us in 2015. There's or 25. It don't even sound real.
It's real.
True.
But anyways, I'd like to pray for you all, and I know I prayed for you last time, but I'm going to pray for you again. The Bible says, make the most of every opportunity. So, Father God, we thank you for 2025. We thank you for this new year, Lord. As we press on, we thank you for 2024 and all the accomplishments with the streets and the improvements and what you're doing in our city. We are truly grateful and thankful, and we pray for continued momentum and dealing with the issues and the problems. We pray for the lady earlier and the issue with the dogs and the homeless there. And we pray for your wisdom and your provision, Lord, leading us forward, that you would give us that supernatural provision, supernatural wisdom, supernatural blessings to overflow in our city. We thank you for the new police chief, and we pray that you would bless him, what you're doing in our law enforcement. We pray that you would continue to bless our rescue mission and enable them and empower them in this new year. The Hope Center and all of the service groups, as we move into this new year, we ask for your continued blessings, your continued guidance and direction. For your kingdom come, your will be done, for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, sir.
That's all I have for submitted public comment, sir.
For the cameraman, the issue of streetlights out by Nelson Avenue and County Center Drive is being worked on by our Public Works. There's 3 agencies involved, PG&E, the state, and the city. And Fred, I know what Fred's going to say, but I'll just let it be said. It's real simple, but it's complicated because everybody's got wires in the ground and you can't agree on who's doing what. So it is a task and it's being worked on. Thank you. Yeah. All right, next item is council announcements and reports. Councilman? Councilman Thompson's on the queue.
No, that should be me.
Oh, excuse me. Councilman Johnstone. There you go.
There we go. I just wanted to remind everyone that the point in time will be taking place on January 29th, and volunteers are needed to help do the point in time. And if you are interested, there are trainings that will be taking place. There's an online Teams training on Thursday, January 9th from 2 to 4. And then there will be in-person training in Oroville and in Chico. Oroville will be 78 Table Mountain Boulevard in the Andes Room on Thursday, January 16th from 9:30 to 11:30. There will be an additional Teams meeting on Wednesday, January 22nd from 9 to 11. And Thursday, January 23rd from 3 to 5 p.m., there will be another Oroville and Chico meeting. Oroville will be in the Andes Room at 78 Table Mountain Boulevard. Again, they are needing volunteers. So if you're interested in helping with the point in time, they need your help. Thank you.
Just real quick, can you share?
Yeah, so the point in time is basically it's a survey of our homeless population. They find out like how many homeless there are in Butte County, whether or not they have mental health issues, whether or not they're unhoused children, unhoused single, unhoused families. So they just gather all of this different information and they compile it throughout the Butte County, and that basically helps the service organizations meet their needs to help get them, whatever services they need. So it's something that's very important. As you can see from earlier, it's something that we need to address, and this is basically a starting point to help us meet the needs of those community members.
And funding.
Oh, and funding, sorry, and funding. Yeah, I guess that's pretty important too. Thank you.
Councilman Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, I want to thank Fred for these radar signs that I've been seeing downtown. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they work. They work. I stood there and I watched them for about 15 minutes today because I noticed the one on Fifth Avenue. Well, there's 2 of them, north and southbound lanes. Anyway, I pulled over and I watched for a minute, and I was watching cars come 31, 35 miles an hour, and as soon as it started flashing, they would drop the speed down. And so I've seen it time and time again. I think I've one out of like 20 cars actually sped up a little bit, I think out of defiance. But anyway, they work. The point is that it's effective. So I'd like to see you put it in the budget, bake it into the budget next year for us to do those things all over the place.
But we're working on that. We're identifying other locations that would be beneficial for those. So coming soon, there will be something coming forward to the council asking for more money for that, or baking it to the budget next year. So I appreciate you guys talking about that.
I appreciate that that you started in District F, and I know I have unique speed issues here in my district, but I know all of them. So and I know everybody in here would appreciate something to be for sure. But
yes, we'll spread them out equally through the city. Yeah. That make it equitable that way for sure.
Thank you very much for that. It's a very effective tool. Secondly, it doesn't have much to do with city business, but I would just like to wish my son Toby happy 21st birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
So he turned 21 today, which blows my mind. I love him so much, and I'm so proud of him. And then lastly, I want to talk about the OCDC meeting that we're having. We're having a special Oroville Community Development Coalition meeting the 14th of this month, which is not on its regular scheduled day, but we're doing it on the 14th because of scheduling conflicts. We moved it from the police department up to the Southside Community Center because we outgrew the conference room there. But I wanted to just invite everybody that wants to come. This will be an opportunity. It's going to be a mixer. Tong Fong Lo or the Union, one of the two, is going to be providing some finger foods. And then it's just going to be an opportunity to get together collectively as a community and to get to know one another, make contacts, and then hear a vision that we've been working on for Oroville, like what we would like to see Oroville become. And also, since Lisa Torres is here, we're going to be debuting the Youth Activity Scholarship Fund Board. And Lisa is one of the members of that board, so I'm thankful for her because she's such an awesome contributing member to this community. And we'll be debuting that board and what the hopes of that is, like what the intention of that is. So I'd like to invite anybody. It's 5:30 Tuesday night, Southside Community Center. It's a mixer, and anybody can come that wants to come, and it'll be a great opportunity. Thank you.
Very good. All right. I'm up next on the queue, and I felt the need as the mayor to give a little statement to the last year. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read this statement. I'll distribute it later, but I'm going to read it into the record tonight. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today to reflect on the incredible accomplishments of Oroville for 2024. As we look back on the year, it's clear that this vibrant community has achieved remarkable progress, demonstrating resilience, innovation, and a shared commitment to making Oroville a place that we can all be proud of. I especially appreciate the current City of Oroville council members who have contributed so much to the success of 2024. Community development and growth. 2024 has been a year of revitalization and growth. Our city and community has made significant strides in improving the infrastructure, ensuring that our neighborhood are not only safe but also connected. From new road projects, the safety project on Highway 162, the Montgomery and Myers resealing, striping, and repairs throughout the city, to the enhancement of public spaces, we have created an environment where families and businesses can thrive. In addition, there are drainage and infrastructure projects in the queue for South Oroville area, along with a number of key software initiatives to assess our roads, to plan and track projects in the future for both Public Works and our sewer department. Oroville has a recent boost in affordable housing options and is actively looking to expand the market rate housing options within our community, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background, can call this beautiful place home. Economic prosperity emphasis continues to revitalize our downtown area to recruit new businesses and maintain existing businesses, create more jobs and opportunities for Oroville residents. Oroville employers consistently stress the need for their employee housing within Oroville. Consequently, the city is striving for initiatives to encourage more market rate housing for a larger workforce to live and ultimately help the city and community thrive. Environmental stewardship. Oroville's commitment to environmental sustainability has been another key highlight this year. We've taken significant steps to protect our natural resources, including looking into the alternative pioneer community energy systems and also digging deep into biomass and alternative fuel options. Through these efforts, we are not only preserving the beauty of our surroundings, but also preparing Oroville for a more sustainable future. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit long, but I had a lot to say, so I'll keep going here.
You've done a lot.
Education and workforce development. Education has remained a cornerstone of our community success. Our local schools, colleges, training centers continue to make strides in providing high-quality education and vocational training to prepare our young people for the workforce of tomorrow. The city continues to partner with Oroville's educational institutions, Butte College, Oroville City High, Oroville High, Head Start, Youth Intervention Program, and local businesses to foster an environment of innovation, ensuring that our next generation is equipped with the skills needed to succeed in an ever-changing world. Health and well-being. The health and well-being of our citizens is a top priority. 2024 has been no exception. We've expanded programs to address those who are the most vulnerable in our community and have the highest level of needs, exampled by Mission Esperanza Housing, Support Services, the Sobering Center, the Community Navigator Program. Providing those in need with help will remain a high priority for this council, along with ensuring that residents of all ages can live healthier and happier lives. Public safety and emergency preparedness. In addition to growth and development, Oroville has focused on enhancing the safety and security of its residents. We've invested in modernizing our emergency response systems. Numerous new systems have been deployed at both the police and fire department, taking better advantage of technology, ensuring that we are prepared for any crisis, whether natural or man-made. Our first responders and community partners have worked together to strengthen our preparedness plans, ensuring that we remain resilient in the face of any challenge. Now, looking ahead. As we close the chapter on 2024, we know that the work is far from over. However, the foundation is being built for a strong future. Accomplishments of this past year have laid a solid foundation for continued progress. Together, we have proven that the collaboration, determination, and a shared vision, Oroville can overcome any obstacle and emerge stronger than ever. So let us carry the momentum of 2024 into the future, working hand in hand to build even a brighter tomorrow for our children, our neighbors, and our community. Together, we will continue to make Oroville a place of opportunity, growth, and success for all. Thank you.
Amen.
It could be said. All right. Next item. Administration reports. Patrick.
We started working with the marketing team, and we've been crafting the messaging that we'll put out over the next year or so. And one thing that we've been toying with is the word opportunity in Oroville. We talk a lot here internally about the opportunity that Oroville presents for development and for building and for tourism, for lifestyle, for entry level, for market rate, all this stuff. So we thought that it'd be a fun way to kind of play with the word Oroville and opportunity, and then start to tie the two words together as we move forward. So this little poster that we have right here, we're going to put up on the electric billboard coming up. That'll be should be up this week, and that'll run for a little while. We're going to start doing some videos. But the building opportunity, and then together, it gives us, there's a lot that we can do to work with this. And there's that says a lot, and it invites a lot of information and future dialogue. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we have something started with this, and we're going to start start production on some little videos in February. We're pulling the team together and starting to get the messaging content together. So.
Good. Yes, sir. Mr. Johnson.
Do you already have a videographer?
Verdon, I think, has something in mind, but I don't know. I can ask them.
I just met a local videographer who I've seen his work, so I can give you his number. And
yeah, please.
At least put in the mix. It'd be cool to do stuff with locals.
They do want to use local people as much as possible too. And
I've seen his stuff, and I was hard to believe. I'm like, wow, it's
that sounds
top
great.
notch. So
cool.
That sounds great. Thank you. So that's it.
Looks like Fred's ready to go.
I guess I'll go. I'll spare us all the details on many things, but thank you, Mr. Weber, for bringing up the radar signs. They were deployed in 4 different locations on Fifth Avenue, 2 locations on Fifth, and obviously on Montgomery. It's been very positive, as you mentioned. Airport operations, the weather kind of chilled things off a little bit. We had about 460 takeoff and landings out there. Those are on aircraft that squawk. That means they have to push the button on the radio so people know they're out there. That doesn't capture everybody, but right around 460. 870 gallons of avgas, that's the low lead, 100 for propeller airplanes. About 230 gallons of Jet A, which is the underwing. That's the pressurized gas going into the bigger jets. So we did okay there. Today is actually pretty exciting for us. We actually did our pre-construction walk over at the Lot House. So thank you guys for appropriating those funds. We had a turnout of probably about 12 different painting contractors and wood contractors. There was a lot of interest. There was a lot more folks that I was expecting to be there, and we were out there for probably 2 hours walking the lot. So we should start getting some quotes and seeing what that looks like here in the next few weeks, and we'll be definitely coming back to council. The lots, it's going to cost, so we might be coming back to proposing more money, but we'll see how this goes with that. Hewitt Park, the RFP closes for February 4th before anybody asks, so we're very close on that one. Yay, that's very exciting. Bedrock Park, the designer, I believe it's Smelton, is working on a scope and a statement of work, and we're hoping to have something back from them maybe by the end of the week so we can start looking at. Cal Oak, our beautiful new corp yard. This thing has been a long, kind of slow roll on the RFP. I think we've got enough guidance and direction on how we're going to take our next step, and we're hoping that'll be out on the street, getting published in the next couple weeks.
Good.
My goal is to have us in there by fall of next year, so we'll see if that actually holds up. There is a lot of work going on out there, so that's where that is. Let's see. I think that's kind of it for me. Oh, PMP, our pavement management system that you guys so kindly helped us afford to get. We're looking at most likely the second council meeting in February for a presentation to show what the findings are, what the system looks like, how it works, and how we're going to extrapolate information on there to pick and identify what's the best streets to do CIPs on and what type of work on those streets. Slurry, pavement, full depth, whatever. So look for that in the middle of February. And that's it for me. So thanks.
Mr. Belser.
I emailed you guys my whole report, but I'll just go over some stats for the month of December. We went live with Tyler in November. My crew has been, we do about a half hour to hour worth of training Monday through Thursday when I'm full staffed to get people adequated. We're opening up new cases on a new system. We have old cases that came over that we're purging out, so some of the numbers are skewed a little bit. But we do have 179 active cases right now. We closed 351 cases, and the reason why we closed so many is that there were some cases that made it over to the new system that they weren't our cases, and they ended up in our platform, but we got rid of them. We opened up 45 new cases, towed 15 abandoned vehicles, 17 plus locations of areas that were graffitied were abated. We opened up 10 cases under multifamily and 3 public nuisance cases. Again, it's a slow process right now with the new software. My team has got a lot of things squared away. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of 3 of them that have really took hold of this system and worked out a lot of the issues. I've been working with Tyler, working with Tyson and IT, and I really feel like we're moving forward. And it slowed us down for about 45 days, but we're kind of light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a good feeling because it's tough to be strapped in the office and not out on the street taking care of business like we should be. Other than that, everything else is going really well, and looking forward to a good 2025. And I do have annual reports that I finished in September that I will get to you so you guys can see what happened in 2024, what all the groups did, the grants that we were able to utilize, and what happened in your districts. Right.
Quick question. I saw some of the new laws. Are they going to help your team, or are they hindering it too?
So basically, especially, I don't want to get too much into the assembly bills, but the one about multifamily.
Yes.
Basically, that bill came about because property managers were not doing their job. You know, they would have an incident of flooding or electrical issue or whatever, and they would just utilize one area to do it as cheap as possible instead of contacting the other units that could have been affected by whatever situation was happening. So it's a great bill, and you know, my team's trained. I've sent them to a couple trainings on it. We went over the new policy and procedures that I wrote up, you know, how to handle that to meet the guidelines for the assembly bill, and you know, it's a good thing. You know, I mean, you have to keep people in safe and in healthy spaces, and this is a nice way of doing it. Other than the apartment manager or the property manager and telling us, "No, go away, we got it." You know, everybody's been contacted, it's all good. Well, now we got to make sure that it's all good.
Especially with our quantity of new multifamily apartments.
Absolutely.
It's a great thing. I was happy to see that in your report. Who's next? Amy.
Since it's January, I wanted to remind you all that we have plenty of funds as first-time home buyer and also owner-occupied rehab. And last year, Councilmember Weber did a shout-out to us on his Facebook page, and it really helped our applications come in. So I'm requesting, if any of you would like to do that on your council page, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Cool. Ruth, Finance. Quiet. Brian, anything?
I just want to take a moment to welcome Jason Wines. It's his first official day here, our new chief. So we've had a couple conversations already, and I think his list is growing. And I mean, talking about hit the ground running. So just welcome, Jason.
Cool. Very cool. Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
I can't seal it.
We'll get you now. All right. Well, thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, I'd
yes,
like
sir.
I forgot something in my administrative
Uh-oh,
report.
what's
I'm
that?
a little horrified. I do this on a regular. We did have a major reconstruction emergency repair completed on Brookdale. The storm culvert that went under Brookdale, it was failing. It was creating a sinkhole. We almost lost the wing wall on the affluent side. We went in, got it repaired and stabilized, and we're in good working order. Last bit, the sidewalk over there on Bird Street, that's been a nuisance for us for a while. It looks like it's been poured, and we should be complete with that by the end of this week. So that's it. Just wanted to make sure Brookdale
I would
was
add
acknowledged.
to your crews, because we haven't talked since the storms, but having your crews out clearing the storm drains when the leaves plug them up has been a big different this year. I've seen it for 50 years happening, and this particular year, the drains didn't back up near as much as they have in the past. So compliments to your crews.
Thank you. We've been working two
two
sweepers this year, so we've been trying to be very active with it.
It's just the two-man crew that's out with the shovels that has to clear that drain, because even though they cleared it, an hour before, and then the leaves picked up and filled it up again, that makes a big difference. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd like to add something if I could, and this is just for the police department. It is a blessing to go out on the weekends and when I'm working during the week and see the amount of traffic enforcement is going on Montgomery or Dam. Listen to the radio. There's some blue flames that are out there working right now that are just stopping everything, issuing citations. It is so nice to see. I mean, I actually witnessed people honk their horn and wave at the cop as they do these enforcement stops or out writing tickets.
Good.
And excellent job, too, on solving the shooting of the shotgun blast at the keg room in the apartments. That was a lot of work went in by the detective department. They hammered that out, and that was excellent for our city.
Yeah.
Dangerous person.
Very much so. Thank you, sir. Good comment. Anyone else? Looks like we're going to move forward in the agenda. Next item is consent calendar. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, we do have public comment on the consent calendar.
Okay,
Would you like me to do that now?
let's do that.
Okay, we have one for item 3 and one for item 5, both for the cameraman.
Welcome. 3 and 5.
Yes, good evening, Oroville City Council. Item 3, I'll start with the Motorola encryption licensing. Just going to give public comment on this. I understand it's not necessarily the city's choice. This is the mandate of the Department of Justice with their, this SB 719 that came out, the so-called Law Enforcement Communications Transparency Act. But when you actually get into the meat of the issue, it's not really transparent at all. It's more about encrypting and making it harder for us to listen to the radio than anything. So it's kind of sad that, Oroville is going to be the last kind of city now that's going to, in this county anyways, where it's finally getting over to encryption. Last year at the beginning of the year, the sheriff encrypted, then shortly Chico police encrypted. Now Oroville police are encrypting. It's just disheartening because, that's kind of our bread and butter as journalists, and, it's safety all around. I don't want to just, as most of these auditors on YouTube, just in some of these cities, just look for police lights and show up. They don't even bother to try and get somewhat of a knowledge before they arrive on scene. I mean, it's just like with you guys, with call takers. You want to know what you're getting into before you show up. So it's kind of like with us, too. I mean, just like with the sheriff, when the fires happened, they had to turn the encryption off to be able to work with other agencies. So this is, this has its own problems within itself. I'm just hoping some way that we can be compliant with this and so there's no abuse of the CLETS, the California Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. So at some way there could be maybe an encrypted line and then maybe a non-encrypted line for maybe basic general calls, but it's kind of up in the air at the moment. I know this has kind of been changed here and there. It was supposed to go into effect last year. Now it's for this year. So, there's that. And finally, with the remaining item number 5, the body cam and tasers. Not so much going to be talk about the tasers. I mean, they're kind of self-explanatory. You either ride the lightning or you don't. I mean, I don't want one of those little red dots on me. So, but rather have them than not at all. What's the alternative? Solid lead? I mean, nine times out of 10, you're probably going to get somebody that tells you they'd rather be tased than shot. But anyways, the body cameras, cameras are great. We need more recording, accountability, especially this day and age. Everything is being recorded. It's a tool for accountability all around. So, I'm not opposed to that. I just wish that with the purchase of more cameras, we get more transparent with what they record. And, I understand ongoing investigations and, their court process. But when those aren't, an issue, more transparency into actually releasing the footage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like to stay up here for item number 5? Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, he got them both.
Thank you.
Any other cards? No?
I'm going to pull item 6.
Oh, you want to pull item 6?
Okay. Mayor, if we may, we might as well, we can pull, which one, what number is that, Councilman Weber?
That was 1, I believe.
Number 1? We can pull number 1 as well, and then I know Councilmember Weber needs to recuse himself from that, so if we pulled 1 and 6, we could take an action on the other items.
Okay, so
Motion that we adopt the consent calendar without items number 1 or 6.
I'll second that.
call the roll, please.
The consent agenda passes unanimously.
Let's go with item 1 first. Yep. Okay. Any questions on item 1?
Motion that we adopt item 1.
A second?
Call the roll.
Motion passes with 6. Oops, I'm just waiting. Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 absent.
And no,
one recusal.
One recusal. Oh, thank you. All right, we can get him back in, and we'll have item number 6 brought forward. Public Works Computerized Maintenance Management, Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, this just a couple questions for Fred on this.
Yes, sir.
Partly just because I'm familiar with CMMS programs. I think they're amazing for efficiency. And I was, reading through some of the appendix, and under risk management, it states the biggest risk for implementation is the lack of agency support for the process. Without empowered city project manager, the implementation will not succeed. So I'm just kind of, because it says, as you know, it's data in, data out. So that program, we're spending a chunk of change on this
Absolutely.
thing. And so that program is only going to be as good to the city as the data and the input and the commitment that the city has to, making sure that there's a policy or how the staff is going to be trained. And I think if it's worked, it's going to be amazing, makes the department much more efficient and all of that. So I'm just kind of curious, like maybe you could just unpack that for a moment, the thought process that goes into that. Maybe you've had some previous experience with other cities you've worked with that maybe have utilized this, and why this is a good thing moving forward. Okay. But again, data in, data out. And then also just my own personal kind of thought on this. I didn't see anywhere where you can put like JPEGs in there, like if you can take pictures.
You can.
You can. Okay.
You most certainly can.
That would be awesome. And to that, and something I want to agendacize at some point, since this is all dealing with different aspects of management of city assets, streets, public works, that type of thing, is the trees, because there's a whole section for management. We have 10,000. Just think about this. just the trees alone, we have 10,000 trees. Imagine the time it's going to take 10,000 pictures. So there's a lot of data crunching, but to that, I was thinking it would be good that if we could put on the agenda having some sort of policy where right tree, right place replacement program, because if you walk, and part of this is I was walking recently and actually tripped over one of our lifted sidewalks. And it was just a reminder, oh yeah, we got to address that. That's a problem. Yes. And I know we did spend a lot of money on the grinding, yes. Right? But so if we could maybe think, if we utilize this program and then agendacize and maybe some budgeting for a replacement program for the trees that are going to blow up more, concrete and curb and gutter and all that, which is going to cost us a ton of money downstream.
That's exactly right. So previously, before I got here, I'm sorry.
I'm done. I've said enough.
So we spent over $200,000. I think it's actually closer to $400,000 on sidewalk grinding before I got here. Total cost would be right around $500,000. We've done 2 phases of that. Now, going back to the CMMS, computerized work order management system. Every agency has them. If they haven't, they're taking them on. City of Oroville is required to have one because we operate a collection system. That's state mandate. If you operate a sewer system, you will have a computerized work order management system. Now, that's for the collection system. For public works, there's a whole suite of good things that happens with that. It's asset management. It's going to tell us we can track the age of our lighting, our air conditioning fixtures, our plumbing, carpeting, microphones, the dais. Whatever you want to point your finger at, we can create work orders off of that. It memorializes it. And we can track cost on how many times we've repaired the air conditioning system, say, at the Pioneer Museum. How many times we've had leaks over at the convention center? How many times have we replaced broken toilets and what those years are, how many hours spent? We're also going to track hours of spent on cleaning bathrooms, parks, and those type of things, special events. The list goes on and on for the park side. Dovetailing the CMMS with the PMP, which helps us to develop and identify areas of capital improvement projects for our roadways and our sidewalk. We can create work orders that memorializes that again in a different way. It also tracks how many panels that we replace, how much curb and gutter we replace, how many man hours, how many hours our vehicles have. Same with the sewer, how many feet we've tracked, how many SSOs we've had, how much grease, how many pipes we've actually cleaned, how many manholes we've entered and repaired. It goes on and on. Even manhole lids, for example. It'll track our street light inventory. How many times have we replaced light bulbs? How many times have there been wires stole? How many times have this in particular street light been knocked over? Same with traffic lights. Same with all of our regulatory signs. There's a whole suite. Now, we're also working with your 10,000 trees, which is a great point, and this is what I brought up. I want to have different icons for the different types of species of trees, so you can actually see on a blowout view, you're going to see all these dots of trees, but a red one would be like a red oak, or a green one could be a redwood, or a blue could be like a valley oak. It doesn't matter what the nomenclature is, but that's kind of where we're going with that. And it can show us how many times we've had to deal with a tree, cut it down, or removed it. Again, the CMMS is mandatory. We're not in compliance with the state at this particular second because we don't have it. Mm-hmm. If we pass this tonight, one of my first calls tomorrow is calling the state regulator saying that City Council has approved this and we're moving forward with our vendor. So we have to do this for our system. Now, to go to what you were asking about before, this is how I subscribe to this. You put trash in, you get trash out. I've got about 18 years of experience working with CMMS. I have very high expectations on the type of messaging that we're writing in on the work orders, which would be for sewer, for example, the depth of the pipe size, and the diameter of the pipe, and the condition that it was found. For example, so if somebody else has to come back to the same location 10 years from now, they're going, wow, hey, Fred was here back in 2025 in January. He said the top of the pipe was 8 feet and it was an 8-inch clay pipe. Now we know what we're digging for and we know how deep it is and we know what kind of repair was made. All that information is very important. With that, there's also the asset management with our 7 lift stations. We don't, right now, we have an idea how old our pumps are. We don't have a very clear idea how efficient they run, how often they run, and how much sewage is actually being pushed. And we just know what our electric bill is, and we can see what the Hobbs hour is saying how many times they run. So these things are really going to start helping us draw a better pictures of what our system is actually doing. Now, we have buy-in from myself. The city engineer, Alyssa, is a very strong opponent of it. Tim is our city engineer, and our managers, Wade and Jamie. We all have buy-in. I've been talking at the lowest level, at line level of what we're doing with the CMMS. And again, the expectation is you put trash in, you get trash out. And very good pictures and notes are key to every work order that we're doing, especially when it comes to vandalism, graffiti, broken, a lifted sidewalk. Somebody says they slipped and tripped. We've got there to take a picture of it. We have it geotagged onto the work order. We can see when we were there and what the actual condition of the sidewalk was. So there's a lot of pieces that we're going to be doing with it. And with pushing the message that putting trash in, get trash out, and to make sure we're memorializing correctly, we're going to have a very robust system. And that starts at the top, by the way, because it's just not Fred mandating the CMMS. We have to do this. And when there's buy-in from the folks out there working in the parks and others, it goes from the top up, and it's very, very beneficial. There's resistance at first because folks are not used to it. There's login troubles, and I don't know where I'm going, but in the city of Sacramento, in the water department, for example, about 15 years ago when I was there, they brought on a computerized work order management system. It took about a year for us to get up to speed, feeling comfortable doing work orders. But this is also predating a lot of connectivity from smartphones.
Well,
So-
Mr. Mayo, you super exceeded my hopes.
Okay, I'm
You
sorry,
so
I could talk all day on this, so, and how much it's important.
Because this so touches every part of our city, and this is so absolutely important. You just spent millions of dollars in that 5-minute dialogue.
Did you?
I did.
And so I wanted to give you opportunity to express, how valuable this is, and it was just kind of in this consent agenda, just kind of get passed by, but I thought it was important to highlight it, and you've done a beautiful job.
I just want you guys to know if I'm not clear, I'm really
you're
and I'm
very
really
clear. You're so clear, I got confused.
That's why I'm here. So.
If I could comment,
Good
I want to comment. It's
So-
really, can I be brief? This is one of the projects that I think we've been talking about for about a year. There's 3 items on the agenda tonight that I think I'm excited about. A lot of the items, but 3 of them we've been working on for a year that have been long coming, and this is one that I won't need to elaborate. Fred did a great job there, but it is something where you're going to get a ton of data, and it's going to be very useful for the city.
Councilman Goodson's in the queue.
Wow. I don't even know in all my scribbles which is the first question. So is the cost of this sustainable? And when you say this is a mandated system, are there not other systems that are comparable at a lower cost? Another question that I had is in regards to would we solely be relying on a third-party developer? Is there any way, and I'm an amateur at this, can we cross-train Tyson?
Well, and that's a great question. And Tyson, I tried to bring in Tyson almost from day one on this because IT has to have buy-in on this or this doesn't work. And I don't want to speak for Tyson, but one of the biggest pieces for Tyson was we want it cloud-based. We don't want servers and all these type of things. It makes his life a lot easier. So no, we cannot make our own CMMS system if that's what you're asking. We're going to leave that to the professionals. Now we had, I don't want to understate or overstate, but somewhere around 9 vendors actually came into this RFP, including the one that I've worked with the most and I liked, but they were actually one of the most expensive one. To Alyssa's credit, God bless us for having her because Alyssa is an amazing resource for us, and I really need to put that out to council how much of a great resource she is for us on the engineering side. I couldn't do this without her. And with her analytical abilities of breaking these all down, we spent a long time vetting each one of them. And we feel we got the best system at the best price that has the most options. That's a cloud-based operation.
And Fred, I was just going to help him. Because it is exportable. All the data is exportable. So if we wanted to go to someone else in the future, we could do that. Because we own the data.
All of them say that, yeah. There's issues there, but yes, we can. And there's the whole GIS layer piece that we need to bring in because our GIS is absolutely critical for this. So when we're doing a work order, we can highlight a section of pipe, a tree, a lift station, a power pole, and we can highlight it and geotag it onto our GIS layer so we can see all the work orders off of it. So there's a lot of different pieces. I'm sorry, I'm probably going
So
way deep in
there's
the weeds
no
again.
training of any personnel that we have specifically in case something, there's an, to input quick data in the event of an emergency?
All of our folks out in the field will have credentials to create work orders and service requests and pull off the GIS
Well, that's good.
and add.
Okay.
We can't change, certain folks won't be able to change maps. That'll be at a manager level if there's a major correction or engineering, if there's a correction on piping or something like that. But everybody should be able to. I can't speak to the IT side. I'm not an IT person, but these people are very confident in what they do. The systems are very robust and they don't typically go down. I think they run off of Amazon servers or I don't know, something like that.
So you didn't answer one of the questions, and that was, I call it the F word, funding.
Funding,
Yes.
So funding is coming from the Sewer Enterprise Fund,
Okay.
probably 50%, and then we're going to break up the other pieces through
What's
the
the
public works.
cost?
You know what? I should know that. I don't know that. The first year is around $100,000, I believe.
Okay.
Give me a second, because it's about $20,000 a year,
Yearly.
starting in year 2. The ranging price is between $50,000 to $250,000, but it's really depends on what we plug in. So there's a little bit of a window there. So
And so it sounds like we're going to have the boat. We've bypassed the Volkswagen. We're talking about Lamborghini.
no, absolutely not. Lamborghini was a much more expensive.
Okay.
We bought a beautiful Passat.
We bought it.
We bought a Passat that's fully loaded.
All right. For our city's needs.
Yes.
Okay.
We could even go with a pilot if you like, a well-appointed pilot. We got. It's not it's not a Cadillac.
All right.
And
I'm
it's not a
gonna
bottom
interrupt
line Honda. We
All right.
did good though.
Yep.
Okay.
One of the things I'm not going to miss about council is
Me?
no, I'll miss you. I'll miss
The
all of it.
dialogue?
Is sitting in a conversation and then it being hijacked by some analogy or metaphor that I don't. Oh, come on.
Oh, we got pictures.
That I just don't understand, and I think, how are we here?
How did we get here?
I just want to know exactly going to be on the front page.
I was, Chrissy,
This is one of those situations.
Chrissy, I was hoping you were going to make a motion to approve item 6.
I motion that we approve item number 6.
I second that.
All right, call roll.
Thank you, everybody.
Jesus.
You all though. Thank you for this.
Motion passes unanimously.
Wait a minute. So,
That's funny.
All right, regular business. Item number 11, professional services agreement with the Ferguson Group for Federal Legislative Advocacy Services. Is that Mr. Rain?
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the next two items. Are two that I'm just especially excited about because I think they're going to bring a lot to the city. The Ferguson Group is a group that works for federal advocacy. They have done work within this region for the Butte County and for the town of Paradise for a number of years, as well as BCAG. They do a great job with setting federal legislative priorities, establishing goals that the city wants to attain. They obviously will help monitor federal legislation that impacts the city or help us if we wish to create legislation and try to have some influence ourselves. But with them as well, that what I found at the county that was extremely helpful was just their networking. They are very well connected back in DC, and there's a lot of funding opportunities, whether it's earmarks or grant funding, that I think are going to be tremendously helpful for the city. So I'm very excited about this relationship with the Ferguson Group. And Christy Moore is online. I know she has some of her team members, I believe, online too, if you had any questions for them. But again, this is I think it's a great opportunity for the city.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, everybody. It's been fun listening to you. It's been a while since I've been on a city council meeting, so this has been great. I'm Christy Moore. As Brian said, TFG is a long history in Butte County. I think we go back about 15 years representing the county, BCAG, and then we started a relationship with the town of Paradise shortly after the campfire, going pro bono for them for a little bit, and now under contract for them on all of their legislative issues and priorities. I think that what's included in the packet is really exciting for the town or for the city as we look at developing not just a federal legislative platform and priorities for regulatory issues, legislative issues, but also really diving deep into your funding needs. I've talked to Brian a lot about what those needs are. And so really what we're doing is developing a platform that not only looks at your legislative and regulatory needs, but incorporates that funding strategy so you can be very strategic about it, looking at grants as well as direct federal funding through appropriations and other sources to bring those resources down to the city, to your priorities, to start to address your needs in that capacity. I will be lead for the contract. Chris Griffin, who is from our advocacy division, will also be co-lead along with me. He is currently not able to participate. He's based in DC and had a horrendous day, 2 days traveling back to Washington from California via Houston, which was not a good route because he got stuck all over the place and is, I think, just arriving home now. But I do want to introduce Marissa Berger and give her an opportunity to chat a little bit about herself. She's going to be representing the grants division. TFG has two divisions, advocacy and grants, and she's going to be your lead on organizing your grant efforts and looking at finding grant programs to address your priorities. So Marissa, you want to say a quick hello?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for your time today. My name is Marissa Berger. I'm a native California girl, and I've been a grants professional for over 20 years. And I've worked at the city, state, county, and tribal level on all different types of initiatives, from infrastructure to community-based programming, pretty much anything that you need funding for. I've had my fingers in it. I look forward to researching grant opportunities for the city and also tracking those opportunities, helping with project design and submitting grant proposals and getting awards.
Thank you.
I think that's it, Brian. We're available for questions if anybody has them.
Councilman Goodson's on the queue.
I just had a quick question. So grants are very competitive. Do you work for the city of Chico too?
No, we don't. We work with Butte County, Butte County Association of Governments, and the town.
Of interest.
Yeah, and I understand. Yeah, and actually, I think what was really buried in your question is if they are competitive, are we going to compete against the city of Chico? Not necessarily, and most of the time, and we work with communities in 33 states. We very rarely see any direct competition, even in the grant side, because your situation is completely different than the city of Chico's, and your projects are different. And how those match up and how those marry up with the different funding opportunities is different. You actually have a lot more availability and a different story to tell than the city of Chico. City of Chico has a different story to tell than you do. So that's what we do, is figure out how to match your priorities with the best programs to make sure that they're most competitive, regardless of who's in the competition.
I'll make a comment too. I'm also sitting on the BCAG board, and your firm came highly recommended from just that coordination, and BCAG has already done well, or the city of Oroville has already done well with BCAG, and we have some projects to the future that will definitely be tied into funding. Councilman Weber's in the queue.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So with us being a city of 20,000 and then having certain demographic standards by which we live, what do you guys look specifically for grants and funding opportunity based upon what boxes we could check on what we need specifically?
100%.
Okay.
That's exactly what we do. And we actually do the majority of the work we do on the grant side, or even funding, looking at whether it's congressionally directed spending or congressional authorizations, is to do the majority of that work before the notice of funding availability opens or before the grant solicitation opens up. That allows us to get your project to be the most competitive and make sure that the programs we're looking at are actually going to be benefiting you and when the money comes in, and that it's the biggest bang for your buck in that capacity. There have been instances where we've told communities have come to us and said, here's this grant, we want to apply, and we say, actually, you should look at this grant over here because it's probably going to get you more money. And it's a better cost share, or your demographics or your economic situation or your population is going to make you more competitive because we understand the nuts and bolts and really what the funding agencies are looking at in that capacity.
Okay, great, thank you. And I got three more questions for you, and they're kind of
sure.
So just off the top of your head, and I'm not asking you to identify a grant or funding opportunity by what I'm about to say, but these three things I'm about to say, would you be able to kind of say yes, those fit some of the things we've worked on before? One would be a grant for green energy production.
Yes.
Okay. Two would be like historical preservation and development for downtown historic district.
Yes,
And
and Marissa actually just finished a grant along those lines.
Okay, wonderful. That's super exciting. So, and then third would be, what about youth initiatives, in particular, a indoor youth sports complex?
Yes, that's a creative one to take a look at. And that is one that you can look at in a couple different capacities. There's actually foundation grants that are specific to certain types of sports complex in that capacity. You can look at it from an economic development perspective. You can look at it from a health perspective and public health perspective in terms of getting those youth out there. So there's a lot of different ways to attack that and bring those resources down, looking at it in kind of depending on how you want to address it, what the grant is, and really what the cost of the project is. But that's when you could actually probably marry a few different programs up to get those dollars coming in from different resources.
Okay, great. And then I got more questions, but I'm gonna make a comment because I suspect some of my fellow council members have the same questions I'm gonna ask you. But I will make this comment. I'm super pleased that this is on the agenda. You and I talked about this, 4 or 5 months ago?
Probably.
Yeah, something like that. And you told me you had this in mind. I'm super excited for this. I'm really excited for what this can do, what this can generate for our city, and elevate our quality of life here by investing into our infrastructure in the very future. So really appreciate your answers to the questions, and thank you, Brian, for bringing this.
Vice Mayor Smith is in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a real simple question. Is this going to increase Amy's workload? And if so, does that mean we have to hire an assistant?
Amy's our housing director, so that's the question.
Oh.
And she does a lot of our grants.
CDBG.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the only way it would do that is if we're bringing a lot of dollars down. So
we appreciate
ultimately, what we'll have to decide is obviously what grants we want to go after, and the great part here is again setting our priorities and then having the Ferguson Group help identify again things that line up and match, and then from there we're going to have to. They have actually a grant writing component that the writing component isn't in the contract, so that would be additional funds. But again, if we have the opportunity to, attain millions of dollars, it's
and that was kind of to my point was, so they identify, but then who's going to do the work?
I'll comment too. I think it would also depend on what
grant.
area. If it's like in transportation, it would be public works. If it's more community development, it might be me or Pat. But I would say I'm super excited about this opportunity because they do a lot of work that I haven't done before, or I don't know about different funding sources. And the biggest challenge that we have is building projects that take a lot of different funding sources and different stacking of funds, and they have that experience. So I think that would, 100% support it.
Okay.
The other thing, Brian mentioned the grant writing. Grant writing isn't included in the package yet. And that is because we don't want you to be paying us to write grants that we're not ready for. It's a waste of your money to do that. And then we can also work with city staff in that grant writing process when you get ready and one is in the hopper and in the queue. The other thing that we do is Marissa and I have colleagues in the grants in the grants division that do post-award. And so we consult with our experts on the post-award side to make sure that post-award grant administration is included and covered by the grant applications that you're applying for. And then we can actually do that work for you so it becomes an extension of the staff, of your staff, so that there isn't any hesitation about applying for a grant because you don't know what to do to make sure that you're compliant and doing the reporting required from the grant when you do receive it. And that's both on the state and federal level. So that's another extension and a benefit. I see it as a benefit.
Councilman Goodson's in the queue.
So why should we go with you as opposed to like California Consulting or some other grant writing foundation?
One of the biggest assets that we bring to the table is that we're on both sides. So we have an advocacy division and a grants division. We actually have a third division, which is consulting, which is a lot of social media output. It's a lot of stakeholder development. It's a lot of resources that are available to bring in to enhance a project when it comes across the board. So I come from both sides. I'm 25 years in the firm. And I grew up, so to speak, on the advocacy side and just recently switched over to managing the grants division in totality. Marissa's on the grants side. Chris Griffin, who is going to be on your team, is from the DC side. Or on the advocacy side. So what we're able to do is pick the brains of the folks on the advocacy side and vice versa to understand what the funding agencies want to see, what the trends are in the programs that are coming out, understand the changes in the programs that we are seeing on an annual basis, and most likely will see with the change of an administration and different folks coming into DC. So that's a big asset, is that we all work together collectively to understand what is driving the resources or what is driving the funding, what the priorities are, and we bring that to the table to enhance the overall plan and the program development.
Okay. So what kind of strain would your group put on our budget if hired, and is it dependent upon what type of grant you would be going after? Like, what is your percentage of, let's say, if it's a $2 million grant, what's your take?
So we do not take off of any of the award. It is not advised from a grant consultant and grant writing perspective to do that. What we do is price a grant from the writing perspective, not on the value of the grant that we're seeking, but the amount of work it takes. So in some cases, it might be $10,000 for grant writing, and we're able to secure $8 million in the grant award. So it's really not dependent on the size of the project the funding being requested. It's really based on how much work it's going to take for us to get the job done and do it competitively. What's on the agenda today is a retainer, which allows you to pick our brains, develop that plan. That's all included in that. So we really don't go into the grant writing cost until you're ready to pull that trigger. And we take you all the way up until that point.
Is your retainer 65?
65, yeah.
And I do want to comment on something that she said as far as the advocacy. Every grant has a objective that they require, like a state objective or something that they're wanting you to answer. And so by knowing that, or some of it in advance, it would help so much, because you never know until that NOFA comes out what information you're going to have to obtain. And it's probably the most work and most confusing narrative to have to write every year. So that is, I think that is a huge benefit.
You know, one thing I'll say is we have hopefully if we get the storm drainer, curb and gutter, all that work in South Oroville, shovel-ready projects are key.
So
we get in a position where we can then advocate and say, we're ready to go. Those are in a disadvantaged portion of the city. That I think that would compete extremely well.
Very well.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering those questions.
Chrissy, I appreciate this. I look to this as a partnership issue, because essentially we have to have good projects packaged up, ready to go.
Shovel ready.
For you to make success in those. And Oroville does have a fair amount of projects. I'm looking at our Washington Street item alone, and that one's in the tens of millions of dollars. And it's a ATIP typically right now running through BCAG, but I see this as a great partnership between us, you, and BCAG. To the future, because that's where the funding comes from, and it's all our money to start with anyway, so we're just bringing it back to town. That's
exactly right.
That's my perception. Any other questions? Looking around the room, don't see any.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion at this point.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion is second to adopt item number 11 as agenda sized. I'll call the roll, please.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
Ladies, thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you. We're very excited to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item number 12, professional services agreement with Shaw, Yoder,
Antwi.
Schmelzer, and Antwip, and Lang.
It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Right. Again, super excited about this opportunity as well. So, Paul Yoder, he's with obviously the firm of Shaw, Yoder, Antwi, Schmelzer, and Lang. They are the advocacy group that we're staff recommending retaining for the state side, the state advocacy side, and very similar to a lot of what Christy just said and Marissa said on the federal side. Paul brings a wealth of experience. He's worked for the county for I don't know how many years, but I worked with him for many, many years over at the county. Does a phenomenal job at in the state. I think state legislation sometimes is more impactful for smaller jurisdictions and local jurisdictions such as the city. Does a great job setting very similar, setting priorities and goals. Really advocating for any legislation issues that we do have or that we're significantly opposed to. But also networking and being connected to our delegation and our legislatures down in Sacramento. Just Pat and I have been dealing with an issue, and Paul's been very just generous with our time, with his time to just talk to us, and he's very well connected. Hooked us up with people down in the at the Capitol, and it's all about relationships and frankly having some contacts down there. So. The recommendation here is to go with this firm for the state side. And again, there's also funding opportunities there as well. I think the federal side's probably a little bit more on that side, but there's also opportunities at the state side. So,
any questions from council?
And Paul Yoder is here if you would like to talk to Paul at all.
Hi, Paul. Welcome. Why don't you come up and introduce yourself? Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, I am Paul Yoder. It's not true that we tried to have the hardest to pronounce name in the lobbying world. I can't help my partner's last names, but thank you for having me here tonight. Have really enjoyed the personal and working relationship with Brian over the years. I've represented Butte County for 20 years. I have been lobbying. This is my 35th year lobbying the California State Legislature. I really appreciate what Brian said about state legislation being a little more impactful sometimes. I think it's a couple things we can do for the city. And you were talking about bills earlier. You might want one sentence to one bill, and that actually could be a game changer for the city, right, in just 1 year. Funding opportunities, we may get back in a situation where we have earmarks at the state level. State finances are improving. Cap and trade is going to get reauthorized. There's the resources bond. So there's some money that's out there for cities and counties. And I'm happy to take any questions, but just happy to even be considered for this.
Well, thank you, sir. Councilman Weber's in our queue to ask a question.
Yes, same enthusiasm that I had with the federal stuff at the state level, same stuff. In a nutshell, without going over everything I just said, there's a trough, right? Yep. And we need to be eating from it,
yes,
right?
That's correct.
And that's what I'm excited for this, because if there's already going to be allocated monies and whatnot, we need to grab those monies. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so that's my hopeful expectation is we enter into an agreement with you and your firm to do that, where we can bring back those monies, because when the state allocates, when I'm here, I was having a conversation with some people at the state level today about that exact thing, saying, hey, these are the needs of Oroville. What do we need for Oroville? And with an expectation to bring that. Right. And so I'm hoping that you can help speed that process up, if you will.
Yep.
So appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Through the chair. Another thing, just the access to state government. I think Brian kind of referenced that a little bit. State government has grown, and then COVID has unfortunately made the key people in Sacramento harder to reach than they ever have been. And that's another thing where, talking to people before NOFAs are mentioned, as Christy mentioned, things like that, that's what we bring to the table. Mm. Yeah.
I appreciate your time and effort and your introduction. I'll say that my pet peeve is unfunded state mandates, which they're happening all the time, and I don't want to delve into that right now, but just as a close example to this issue, directly to Oroville, our lineman college here, and I don't know if you're even aware of this, but Gallagher's office is working on it.
Yep.
They have a need to have CDL training out of a school base. And if we can't get that done here, they're going to probably leave the state.
Go away.
And in April, they're hoping to have 300 students. And having a CDL program in a school-based system is the big issue.
Yeah.
And It's direct to Oroville, and we don't want to lose that situation. So predicting this gets funded, there's your first job right there.
Yeah, and you know, if I may, I am aware of the issue. Doesn't surprise me at all that your assemblyman is already working on it. If anybody can get the job done, it's him.
Yeah.
So, but if we can be additive to that, helpful in any way, we certainly will.
I totally see it happening, and the school presented it to us some months ago, and this council sent a letter to DMV and all the folks, and it's just, it should be able to handle administratively, but it's slow, and we have a target of April to be able to have the April class coming in to be able to all get CDLs in their training, and it's a requirement now for their industry. And April, they want to have 300 students, and they have 242 right now, and it's a hypercritical issue for our particular training activity here. So appreciate your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Shaw, Yoder,
Good job.
I'll second that.
Services. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
I seconded that.
Call roll.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 13, issuance or sale of duty firearm to retired police chief Bill Lagrone. Mr. Ring.
Yep, I'll do this one as well. So prior to Bill's departure, or former Chief Lagrone's departure, he'd come up to me and I think firearms in law enforcement are something that law enforcement professionals get attached to over time, and it's not uncommon. And I think Jason could probably speak to this, but for agencies after certain milestones, whether it's 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, to either offer the firearm to the retiring law enforcement professional if they're retiring in good standing at a reduced value or at market value. And I know former Chief Lagrone has requested to retain his firearm. I think it's 22 or 23 years old. It's probably valued at approximately $250. That's a ballpark figure that Jason probably even maybe 150 or 200, right around there. So obviously, the options are we can do that, or we can retain it in the stock, but it's just gonna eventually be destroyed. So staff would recommend that we sell this to former Chief Lagrone at $1 or
Councilman
or a different figure.
Councilman Johnstone's on the queue.
I would like to make a motion to sell it for $1 to Chief Lagrone.
I'll second that.
Call the roll, please.
Do we have any public comment?
Do we have any public cards on this?
We do not, sir.
No.
Any council questions?
I'm
Call
good.
roll. Goodson.
What? Push it.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
All right. Item number 14, budget adjustment for election cost.
I guess I'll do this one too.
Yeah.
Right.
You're on tonight.
Yeah, this one is not as exciting as the prior items, but it's the necessary evil of the costs associated with an election. This last election cycle, we budgeted, I think, about $16,000, I think, in the budget. And that was primarily for, we knew we had three council member seats that were up for the running. And when we also knew we would be putting some sort of measures on the ballot for the charter. With that, we didn't know exactly how the charter measure, how they would be packaged together, because again, when you're talking about probably 100 edits to the document or proposed edits to the document, how do you package those together? You can't have an individual measure for each one, because if you did, the bill would be about $1 million. But with that said, we packaged them up into 4 different items. We had one to eliminate the treasurer position. We had one that changed the way council compensation was structured. We had one that more accurately defined the roles and responsibilities of the Parks Commission, and also deleted some sections that were frankly just outdated. And then we had a cleanup item.
Repetitive.
Unfortunately, only the cleanup item was the one that passed, and I think I learned something through this process, and I think we'll do some things differently in the future. But with that said, putting a ballot measure on the ballot, despite our efforts to get cost estimates from the get-go. It's just an impossible, because I don't know how many ballot measures are going to be on there and how they're going to spread the costs. But a ballot measure itself, when it goes to every single voter within that jurisdiction, is a much more costly. A council seat, for example, costs around $4,500. A ballot measure costs about $24,000. So with that, we have about close to $100,000 that we did not budget, that we are requesting, that comes from our contingency to pay for the election costs.
Any questions on the item? Do we have any public cards?
We do not, sir.
I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 9340, approving this budget adjustment.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
Okay, next item is public communication, hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any cards?
I have no submitted speaker cards.
Then we'll move. We don't have any public hearings tonight. Future agenda items from council. Vice Mayor Smith is on.
Yeah, I did bring up Mr. Mayo. What would be your pleasure as far as an agenda item to address the public safety issue with trees, with replacement program? Is there any way that, I mean, I'd like to see that, some funding towards that, and some sort of program implemented, because that's just a growing problem.
I think I have to probably chew on that and kind of come back to you on that one.
Well, let give you some time to think about that, and then maybe get back to us.
Will do.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Vice Mayor, if I may, though, the 311 program is another program that that's I think is going to bring a lot of value to the city. That's just on the cusp. I think it'll probably be before your council, the next meeting, or then maybe the second, 1 or 2 meetings down the road here. But that'll be a mechanism for us your constituents to actually report such items, which I think is going to be a very good way to push information. And I think that'll then help, because that's not really, I think, the CMS systems wheelhouse. CMS systems wheelhouse is really good at tracking work. The 311 system will be really good at identifying some opportunities where some work needs to be done.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any other future agenda items? Looking around the room, not seeing any. Correspondence, we have any?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
None?
Mr. Mayor, we just had one on the agenda, the fire department December statistic report.
Right. That's in there, included in the packet, and there's a lot of information there for folks. Short of that, I'm ready to adjourn the meeting until our regular scheduled meeting at 2000 hours or 8 o'clock tonight, which is in about half an hour. And we're coming back to that based upon the city charter requirement that this meeting be held at 8 p.m.
I think that was one component that did change. So we'll be bringing an ordinance before you to change that before the
okay.
for the
so we are
next one.
adjourned until 8 p.m.